Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Spontaneous Remarks, the podcast where you never know what's going to happen, what's going to be said or done. You just got to know what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we only have a few more subjects left for this season, unless I think of something between now and our last episode. So we're going to give the old Wheel of Nerdville a spin and see what we are going to talk about today. Here we go. Oh, it's a big one. Ta-da! Oh boy, this is one I've been waiting on for a long time. We are going to talk about the Masters of the Universe. He-Man, doom, 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 doom. He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Woo! Way to go, way to go, way to go, team. Don't know why I started that way, but here we are. We are back, and we are on to another episode of Spontaneous Remarks. And today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite toys growing up, and that is the Masters of the Universe franchise. So, here we go. Let's look some up so we can talk about them here. Masters of the Universe toys. All right, so here we go. So this franchise started in 1980. Masters of the Universe, or abbreviated sometimes as MOTU, is a very popular toy franchise. Started back in the 80s. I had almost every single one of these toys. So it was created by Mattel and is best known for the action figures, like I said, and the animated series He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, the franchise has enjoyed a resurgence of popularity over the years. Kevin Smith actually had started a Masters of the Universe cartoon on Netflix, which I did watch some of it, but it was interesting, but I couldn't really get into it. I mean, obviously I'm 43 years old, so cartoons are not my favorite thing nowadays. But anyway, so here's some key aspects of the Masters of the Universe toys. He-Man was the central character of the franchise. Now, I've always really enjoyed anything that what's the way I can describe it? Well, you have the whole Clark Kent Superman duality with He-Man, much like why I started liking Kiss when I was a young child, because we watched Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, and so that was to me like they were superheroes. They each had their own powers. They each had their own special abilities, and so I've always liked things like that. So He-Man would hold his power sword up and say, "I have the power," and then he would turn into He-Man, but he was really Prince Adam the whole time, but he would turn into He-Man, which was kind of like a Conan the Barbarian type of character. Skeletor was the primary antagonist, which had his purple and blue outfit. He was a skeleton sorcerer with a skull for a face, constantly attacking Eternia to try to conquer it and defeat He-Man. Now, I didn't know this, but I believe, unless I'm just mistaken, Skeletor is actually He-Man's uncle, trying to take over the king. The king's brother, which that usually is what happens. The family member, the one that feels like they are owed certain what do you call it? If you're entitled, certain entitlement, you owe me, I need to be the king because whatever, typical people nowadays. But anyway, we'll leave politics aside, but you know what I mean. If you're picking up what I'm putting down anyway. Supporting characters, so there was a lot of heroic characters. There was allies of He-Man, which was like Man-at-Arms. It was like his right-hand man. Teela, which was Man-at-Arms' daughter. And then Orko, which was one of the wizards. He always got one of his spells wrong. He was the like comic relief. But Man-at-Arms and Orko were two that knew He-Man's secret. They knew who Prince Adam was really, or who He-Man was really. And then, of course, there's the evil warriors, minions of Skeletor, such as Beastman, Evil, Lyn, and Trapjaw. Vehicles and playsets. The toy line featured tons of vehicles like Battle Cat, which was He-Man's trusty steed, and then iconic playsets such as Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain. I never had Snake Mountain, and I never had Eternia, but I did have Castle Grayskull, and then I also had, I don't remember what it's called, the Horde Village, or the Horde. Oh, gosh, I see it in my mind. What was it? The Fright Zone, I think is the name of it. The design and articulation. So these action figures were known for their muscular build and limited articulation. Like you couldn't bend their arms or their knees, but they had a rubber band inside of them to where you could pull their arm back, like turn them sideways, and when you let them go, they would like slap you. But over time, newer versions have been released with those improved articulation points and more detailed designs. Now, in the 1980s, the original toy line was launched in 1982, and it was accompanied by the animated series that helped promote the toys. I think the toys came first, and then the cartoon came out because they had to have something to go with it. In the 2000s, the franchise saw a revival with a new animated series and updated toy lines. And then in recent years, the franchise continues to thrive with the release of new toys, Netflix animated series. That's one I mentioned earlier called Revelation. And then they've got comic books going again. Now, unfortunately, the collectability was very high, and I did not keep any of my toys. I wish I had of. But the vintage Masters of the Universe toys are highly collectible, with rare figures and mint condition items fetching high prices among collectors, much like the Star Toys. Well, any toys back then. If you have, the box, the original packaging, everything in mint condition, I mean, yeah, if I had the room and the place and the time and the money, my gosh, my wife would probably divorce me. But anyway. Masters of the Universe is just such a cool franchise. I always thought it was anyway. But in addition to the toys and animated series, the franchise has expanded into comic books, a live-action film that was released in 1987, and a new streaming series as well. And it's just something that has remained such a significant part of pop culture. So, when it comes to the Masters of the Universe toys, let me go through the toy line real quick. Yes, I'm looking this up because I don't remember all of the characters, so I'm gonna have to go to the old interweb and look these up. So, Wave 1 in 1981, we had He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Stratos, and Teela. So, He-Man was, if I could describe him to you, I mean, he had muscles everywhere. He had a loincloth on, fur-covered boots, and then he had a shield-like device over his chest with a cross in the middle of it. He came with this power sword, the axe, and a shield to hold. And so He-Man was just a pretty cool character. I thought it was just, I mean, growing up, look, let me tell you something. When I say growing up in the 80s was the best, it was the best. I don't care who you are or what anyone says. The 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s was such a great time to grow up. Now I can't get back to my character here. What am I looking at? He-Man, doom, 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 doom. He-Man, bum, 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 bum. Come on. Okay, here we go. Man-at-Arms. Now, in the cartoon, dude had a mustache, but the character, when you first got him, he did not. He looked kind of weird. But his name was Duncan. Man-at-Arms. He was the Royal Guard and military police. He would take care of all that kind of stuff. He had a mace. He had a on his left arm he had whatever you call it, the piece of armor that goes over your arm, and then he had greaves that went over one of his legs, and then he had the mace and the helmet. He kind of looked weird. And then there was Teela, which Teela is his daughter. She had like a snake helmet, I guess you could call it, and then a staff, and that was Adam's. Oh well, Prince Adam was. Teela would assist Prince Adam in battles, even though she didn't know who he was. She just knew him as Prince Adam. But she was also part of the Royal Guard in Eternia, or Eternos, or whatever it's called. And then there was Stratos, which Stratos was a winged creature. Well, he didn't have wings, really, but he had some things on his arm like wings. He was blue. Well, he had blue, gray, and red. That was the colors he had. He was the leader of the race of the bird people of Avion. So he possessed flight and other bird-like abilities. So Stratos, he was a good guy. And then the bad guys of Wave 1 was Beastman, Merman, and Skeletor. So Beastman was orange, had red armor, and a whip. And that was Beastman. And then also Merman, he was the water in the water world, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't say. He was just one of the henchmen from Skeletor, and he was just a mermaid. He kind of looked weird. He was blue and had yellow armor. And then there was Skeletor, of course, and Skeletor he was blue. His armor was purple. He had a yellow skull face. He had a staff. It was like a ram's head with the horns, and he had a purple sword. And I didn't realize this. Oh, yes, right here it is. It was hinted that Skeletor might have once been Keldor, the brother of He-Man's father, King Randor, which would make him He-Man's uncle. But in the new show that Kevin Smith put out, it's like the sword that got you into Castle Grayskull. Skeletor had half of it, and He-Man had the other half. And when they were put together, that was the actual sword that got you in. It was like a balance, kind of like the Force, the balance of good and evil. And then the non-aligned character, one guy was named Zodak, and he was kind of like an anti-hero. He had a gun. He was neutral in the battle between good and evil. But I always thought he was a bad guy. I don't know. He just looks like a creep. And then there was Battle Cat. Now, the interesting thing about Battle Cat was this was actually from a different toy line, and it was much bigger in scale than a Panther would be to a character. So since it was so big, they used it as a kind of a vehicle or a rideable creature for He-Man or Prince Adam to wear. Cringer was the alter ego. So alter ego, Prince Adam had Cringer, He-Man had Battle Cat. So when He-Man turned into He-Man, Battle Cat became fierce and not a scaredy cat, so to speak. And then there was on the evil side there was Screech, which he was Skeletor's bird. He was a counterpart to Zor. Zor was the sorceress's bird form, I believe. And then there was the battle ram vehicle. That was just a vehicle that they would use. And then also a Wind. I don't remember if I had Wind Raider. It looks familiar, but I don't remember. I didn't have a ton of the deals. But here's the Castle Grayskull. So in the series, let's see here. Skeletor, Hordak, and the Snake Man were all after the Castle Grayskull and the secrets of Castle Grayskull. And the Sorceress was over Castle Grayskull to try to protect it. So that was the Wave 1 in 1981. Wave 2 in 1983, we had these heroic characters, Many Faces, spelled M-A-N-E, Man-E Faces. And he was a good guy, and he had 3 different faces. You could turn a little dial on top of his head, and his face on the inside would turn. He had a metal, like a robot head, and then he had a monster head, and then a regular human face. So he was pretty cool. Character's name is play on Many Faces. I really liked him. He had a robotic body, and he could just change his faces. And then you had Ram Man. Say that 5 times fast. Ram Man. And he just looked like he kind of looks like dude from Lord of the Rings. What's his name? The dwarf. I don't remember his name, but anyway, Ram Man. He had a metal armor, and I think you could push down on him, and he would jump. Like Ram Man, he would smash into stuff. That was his in the cartoon. That's what he would do. And then we had Zor, which was the good creature, and that, like I said, that was Sorceress's form, the bird form. So that was the good guy. And then we had Attack Track and Point Dread. Why does this keep doing this? Attack Track. I think this was the... Oh, no, that's not what I'm thinking. That's something... I didn't have that one. Point Dread and Talon Fighter. I don't... Stop. Yeah, I didn't have that either. Some of these I didn't have. I'm just now finding out that I didn't have. Okay, the Evil Warriors. We had Evil Lynn, which was it was a girl. She was Skeletor's right-hand woman, I guess, second in command with the powers of darkness. And she had like yellow skin. She didn't look like a regular person. She had yellowish skin with a blue outfit and a staff with a little crystal ball on the end of it. And then there was Faker. Faker was a fake He-Man. He looked just like He-Man, only he was blue skinned. He had an orange sword and an orange armor. He was an evil duplicate of He-Man in service for Skeletor. And then Trapjaw. Now this guy he had a gun for one hand, and his jaw was metal jaw, the bottom jaw. Trapjaw, he had a deadly bite and a robotic arm. He could just get a good wide range shot on, or long range shot. And then there was Triclops. Now Triclops was similar to Many Faces, but Triclops, he had 3 different eyes, so his little visor on the top of his head would spin around. He could see 3 different directions at once, and you could also, I think you could rotate it around to see he had a different eyeball, different color. So Triclops. And then you had Panther. Now Panther was the evil counterpart to Battle Cat. I also like the opposites when they come up with the good guys or bad guys. I like how they come up with the opposites, so everything has a counterpart. Wave 3 in 1984. Now we had Battle Armor He-Man. Now this is where they started bringing out more. It's the same character but just different accessories. Now the Battle Armor He-Man, there was a piece on the front that would rotate around when you hit. If somebody would hit his chest, it would spin up and show you some battle damage, and it would take I think it would do 2 or 3 different rotations to where it looked like he was really getting hurt. So that was kind of cool. You had let's see who's the next one here. Buzz-Off. Buzz-Off was a bee with big old eyes and golden wings, and he had an axe. He was a race of the bee people. They're given the name Andrenids. So that was kind of cool. The bee people, bee buzz off. And then we had, who else? Fisto. Fisto had a metal fist. I don't remember really having it. No, I had to have him because I remember that sword. But he had a really big metal fist, and he would punch somebody right in the face for getting right in the middle of something. Mechanic. Now this dude, he looked a lot like Stratos. He had a mace type weapon too, but his neck really extended really high. He had a bionic neck to see great heights and great distances with his special visors. So Mechanic, and then we had Orko. Now Orko, like I said, was the wizard of Eternia. Played off as, the comic relief, and he would always get his spells wrong somehow. But Orko, you never did see his face. All you saw was his eyes sticking out from under his hat. So you never knew what he looked like. That was cool. And then Prince Adam. So now, a couple of years later, we get Prince Adam. And Prince Adam looked just like He-Man. Except for he had pink pants, pink boots, a red jacket, and a white shirt. And then he had a pink sword, I guess. And so this is, you had to have both of them. If you had He-Man, you had to have Prince Adam, right? So they come up with the Prince Adam. And then the Evil Warriors, of course, if you had Battle Armor He-Man, you had to have Battle Armor Skeletor. So it was the same situation. You could punch Skeletor with He-Man and mess his armor up. You had Clawful, which was a lobster type character, and he had a big claw in one hand that you could push the little button and his claw would open up. He was a hybrid between a crab or lobster and a man. Could crush the life out of his opponents. Then you had Jitsu. Now this dude I never had. He was the martial artist with a powerful golden right hand that could karate chop. Don't go ninja. Nobody don't need ninja. If you know what that's about, you get a laugh over that, I guess. All right, and then let's see who else. Who else did we have? Cobra Khan. So Cobra Khan, he had a cool accessory. Well, he had a little gun, but you could also squirt water out of his mouth, just like a cobra. He would spit it out of his mouth. I don't remember how you got it in there. He had the power to spray sleep mist from his hood. But that was a cool little accessory. I mean, not accessory. It was built into the character. This is about the time they started adding those things in. Webster. He was a spider-like character, the Master of Escape. He had a spider, Black Widow spider symbol on him. But on his back had a grappling hook cord. And so you could use it to climb anything. But I always got the stinking cord or rope all tangled up, and I never could get it untangled. So leave it to me to mess something up. Okay, and then next we had Whiplash. Now Whiplash, he was a green. What kind of character was him? Anthropomorphic reptilian creature. Looks like kind of like a crocodile, and he could slap people with his tail. When you spun his arm around and let go, his tail would come back too. So slap somebody in the face. Okay, and then also you had the vehicles: Dragon Walker, Road Ripper, Stridor. Stridor was a horse, much like Battle Cat. And then you had Roton. I don't know what Roton was. What is Roton? Oh, I never had that. That was like a razor blades. Razor blades would whirl around as the vehicle stops or travels. So I never had that. And then Snake Mountain. And Snake Mountain is the one I never, one of the play sets I never had. I always wanted it, but I don't guess I ever got it. Now, Snake Mountain, the interesting thing about that was, I believe it had, so Castle Grayskull had it had trapdoors and things like that. Snake Mountain had a big snake coming around the top of it. Once home to the Snake Men. Oh, the Snake Men. Snake. Let's see how slithery I can be. All right. Okay, so that was Snake Mountain. I had a friend that had it, and anytime I went over to his house, I played with it. The Snake Man place, the play set. All right, so now we had... Okay, that was Wave 4, 1984. Now, or Wave 3, I'm rather. Wave 4, 1985. So now we had Thunder Punch He-Man. Now, Thunder Punch He-Man... if you grew up in the 80s, you knew I don't know what they're called, the little cap guns, the little round things you put in a gun to make them pop. Well, that's what you had to use, and you stuck it inside He-Man's, I think, backpack. So when you threw his arm, it would make that sound like a cap gun. It was the Thunder Punch. You had Moss Man. Now, Moss Man was interesting because he was covered in fur or moss. Well, the character was covered in the fuzzy moss, and he smelled like a pine forest. He smelled really good, pine scent. This is where they started coming up with all kinds of different characters that had either cool accessories or built-in features. He had the pine smell. He was green, and he was Moss Man. So that was kind of cool. And then we have, where's my list at here? I hope y'all are enjoying this episode. I like reliving over these old deals here. Oh, Roboto. Oh, no, Begato, Mr. Roboto. I wonder if that's where they got that song. This was a guy from He-Man. He had a robotic arm. Or like a clip hand that clipped, could grab stuff, and then you could see on the inside, and they would spin around. So Roboto, he was. Oh, you could replace his mechanical claw with an axe or laser gun as well. And then after Roboto, you had. Where's it at? Cyclone. Now this guy, he looked just like He-Man, sort of, but he was yellow and blue, and he had kind of a he could generate a whirlwind when you could spin him around, and the top part of his body would spin around and make a tornado. But he also had like a radar on his chest, so you could see things. That was pretty neat. It was spelled SYKLONE with a dash on there. SY dash clone. And then for the bad guys, you had Dragon Blaster Skeletor. Now, I don't even know what dragon. Oh, this is a Skeletor that had the dragon on his back, and he could spit out stuff, I think. So he was kind of cool. And then what other bad guys did we have? We had Spikor. Spikor he had spikes all over him. He was purple, had spikes all over him, and he had a thing on his hand that could kind of like a mace or a trident, and it would shoot out laser beams in the cartoon. And you could, when you spun him around, it would come out of his hand a little bit and smack somebody in the face. And then you also had Stinkor. They got really creative with these names. They just put OR on the end of everything, just about. Stinkor, he was a skunk character, the evil master of odors. Wouldn't you like to have that power? Clear out a room in about 2 seconds. But he was a humanoid skunk whose superpower was the ability to release a toxic odor from his body, and it would knock people out. Now, he didn't smell like a skunk, but he did have a smell to him. I remember kind of in my mind how he smelled. I can't describe it, but he did have a smell. So he was kind of the counterpart to Mossman. Mossman smelled really good. This guy smelled really bad, but he didn't have it wasn't a bad scent. But anyway, this guy was made by the mold of Merman. He looked a lot like Merman. Let's see. I guess he was chemically treated to smell musty or musky. But Stinkor was interesting. Okay, and then we had let's see who else. Too Bad. Now Too Bad, he was two-headed. Half of his body was purple, half of it was blue, and he couldn't do much because when he tried to punch, he'd punch himself in the face. I always thought he would anyway. That's why it was called Too Bad. And then the Evil Horde has come out in this wave. So we had Hordak, which was former mentor of Skeletor, which that was interesting. I didn't know that. But Skeletor betrayed Hordak and trapped him in another dimension, which that's what happens. You raise up somebody and then they betray you. And oh gosh, and that's what happens. Grizzlor was kind of like a Beastman character. He looked like a chow dog. He was a hairy man beast, covered in thick brown fur and sharp claws, and he had the power of brute strength. Grizzlor. Yeah, there was Leech. Leech, he had suction cups on his hand, so he could stick to stuff like a leech. And then who else was there? There was where's my list at here? Mantana. Now Mantana had eyeballs that when you he looked like a insectoid creature. And there was a button on his back you push up and his eyeballs bugged out real bad. Yeah, and then there was Modulok, and this guy had a bunch of different pieces. A parent's worst nightmare because they would all get lost. 22 different pieces. You could mix and match on this character and make him whatever you wanted. Make the character however you wanted to. A lot of different pieces to this character. He was kind of a cool character. And then the Fright Zone playset. Now the Fright Zone playset had a puppet that come with it. It was a big snake, and you could put it on and grab your characters and give them a good squeezing. But anyway, let's see what else. Now that was Wave 5. We also had Bashosaurus, the Battle Bones, Thunder Punch Ammo, the Land Shark, Night Stalker, and Spydor. Night Stalker was Skeletor's horse, I believe. I don't know what the Land Shark was. Oh, it was Skeletor's. Exactly what it says. It was a Land Shark. And then there was... where is my list? I lose it all the time. Night Stalker was the horse. Yep, that was Skeletor's horse. Looked just like He-Man's, only it was different colors. And then there was... Spydor. Now, I did have him. Now, this was a giant spider, and it had 6 legs. It might have had 8, but it would walk. So you could turn it on, and it would walk across the floor. It was pretty cool. All right, that was Wave 5, I believe, and I'm going to quickly just go through the rest of these because I know we're about out of time. Wave 6, we had Extendar. This guy could stretch his neck, his hands would get long, and his arms would get long, and his waist would get long, so he could get really tall. We had Rio Blast. This guy had guns all over his body and his shins. His shins would pop out with guns. He had a gun on both of his arms, and then his chest also had a gun that popped out. We had Rock-On, which was a rock character. He could fold up, kind of like a transformer, and turn into a rock. There was Snout Spout, which was a elephant character. He could spit water. And then Stondar was another rock-like character, the rock people. And he could turn into a rock as well to hide or be camouflaged. And then there was, let's see, Dragstore. Dragstore was part of the evil horde, and okay, so back in the 80s, there were some toys you could stick a long, it was kind of like, it looked like a zip tie, sort of. If you know what a zip tie is, it has the teeth that you can't, when you put it in, you can't get it off. You could put the zip tie like thing in the character, and when you pull it out, it would make the wheel inside of him spin around, so you could do that and let him go, and he'd go across the floor real fast. The Horde Trooper, that was just a kind of like a foot soldier or a stormtrooper for the evil horde. And then Multibot. Now, Multibot was really similar to Modulok, only he was kind of like a robot character. He had a lot of different pieces on him as well, and you would lose them all the time. And then there was a Snake Man, the King Hiss. King Hiss was, he had a cover that would go over the front and back of his body, and when you took it off, he was a big snake with a bunch of snake arms and whatnot. You had Ratlore, which was, he was a rattlesnake, and you could push the button on his back, and he would strike at you. His neck would come out real quick, but he also would rattle. He had a rattle in his tail. There was Tongue Lashor. See how I'm telling you they all put OR on the end of it? And he could stick his tongue out and hiss at you, or like just like a snake does. There was the Fright Fighter. I'm not sure what that was. Blaster Hawk, Laser Bolt. Also, the Evil Horde had Mantisaur and Monstroid. I don't remember these characters. Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I think I had him too. And then we also had, well, this webpage is giving me all kinds of trouble. The Slime Vat. Ooh, they brought out the slime where you could like slime your people, and then you couldn't get all the slime off, so then it would get nasty and crusty. The Slime Pit. You had a Jet Sled, a Stilt Stalker, a Mega Laser. All those things were accessories. And then you had the Eternia playset, and that's another one I never had. And then Wave 6 in 1987. These, I don't remember a lot of these characters, so I might not have had these. Clamp Champ, Gwildor. Oh, Gwildor was from the Masters of the Universe movie. Had Dolph Lundgren in it. It was not a bad movie. It was a lot like Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings meets He-Man. It could have definitely been better, but it was a pretty good movie for a kid in the 1980s. It was pretty awesome. I thought so. And here's my kids that won't be quiet while I'm trying to do my podcast, but that's how it goes. King Randor and Sorceress were characters that come out in 1987. Who's Clamp Champ? Oh, Clamp Champ, the guy with the clamp arm. Yep, I never had that guy. And then you also had, oh my gosh, it always goes up to the top. I never can. You had Blade, Blast Attack. Okay, Blade was from the movie. Blast Attack, he was the guy that he would explode and split into two pieces. He was pretty cool. I do remember him. Ninjor, I never had Ninjor, which was similar to that other dude I had that I did not have. Scareglow, which was like the ghost of Skeletor, I think, or something like that. And then Saurod, and he was also from the Masters of the Universe movie as well. And then you had Mosquitor, and Mosquitor was a mosquito, and he had a button on the back of him that you could push, and his chest cavity would fill up with blood. He looked pretty neat. Snake Face and Squeeze. Squeeze was he was a snake-like character, and he had really long arms. You could pull his one arm short, pull it through his body, and it would make one arm short, one arm long. Oh, Snake Face was kind of like a Medusa type character, and snakes would come out of his eyes and mouth and everything. I don't remember if I had him or not. And then we had Rotar. That was the Energy Zoid. Twistoid was the evil one. Some of these I don't... Yeah, I didn't have him. That guy was like a top. He could spin like a top. Some of these, you know, when toys run out of ideas, they come up with some really bizarre items. And Twistoid, I bet, was almost exactly the same. Just, sort of. I never saw that guy before. When I was going through the G.I. Joe ones, there was a ton of toys I remember, then a ton I never even saw growing up. Megator, then there were some dinosaur creatures, and here's some other stuff. Like these names, I don't even remember. Astro Lion, sorry. Comet Cat, Cometroid, Tuskor, Tiger, Crocobite, Dinosaur, Gorilla, Gore-Illa, Orbear, Rhinorb. So these characters, Meteorbs. See, I don't remember these things. Yeah, I don't remember them. And then Wave 8. There was only one toy that came out on Wave 8 in 1988, and that was Laser Power He-Man and Laser Light Skeletor. So by that point, I guess He-Man had finally kind of crawled to a halt. Now there was also She-Ra. She-Ra was the Barbie of He-Man. She was the princess of whatever the place was. I don't remember the name of it. Princess Adora, the twin sister of He-Man, Prince Adam. And she was a character that would appeal to young girls. So, same situation. Just a different perspective, I guess you could say. But, yes, I did have She-Ra. Why? I don't know. But I did. And so, yeah, that's Masters of the Universe. Now, let's talk a little bit about the movie. Movie Masters of the Universe movie. This movie was the first movie to have Courtney Cox from Friends in it. 1987, it was directed by Gary Goddard. Live action film based on the popular toy line and animated series. Dolph Lundgren was He-Man. I think he played a pretty good one, and if they're going to remake this, I would love to see Chris Hemsworth. No doubt the God of Thunder would play a wonderful He-Man. Frank Langella was Skeletor, played an excellent Skeletor. Courtney Cox was Julie Winston. Meg Foster was Evil-Lyn, and yes, she played an amazing Evil-Lyn. And Billy Barty was Gwildor. Now the plot follows He-Man that teams up with Teela, Man-at-Arms, and the inventor Gwildor to prevent Skeletor from conquering Castle Grayskull and gaining ultimate power. Skeletor had actually captured the Sorceress and was using her power to take over the universe. And so much like the animated series and toys, the movies did make significant changes, or unlike the original. Much of the action was taking place on Earth rather than in Eternia. And then the introduction of new characters. Gwildor, he was kind of the Orko of the movie, but it was actually had mixed reviews. It was not necessarily a box office success, but the performances of Frank Langella and Meg Foster was praised by critics, and they did find fault with the script and special effects. But I mean, it was the 80s, so I always say this, guys. If my podcast ever gets to anybody that makes movies, I want you guys to listen to me. If you want a good script, fire all of your writers and go find a bunch of nerds somewhere that know the ins and outs of whatever movie you want to make. They could see all the plot holes before they even start. Like on Big Bang Theory, that's the type of people you need writing your shows. Not a bunch of writers that went to college and know how to write. People that know the material is who needs to write. But anyway, have one guy that knows how to write and then the rest of them tell him what to write. Okay, off my soapbox now. Despite its initial reception, the film has gained a cult following among fans of the franchise. It has become that cult classic, and it's appreciated for its campy charm and nostalgia factor. Almost said flavor. I don't know why. But anyway. So the Master of the Universe movie, I think there is one trying to get in development as we speak. But like I said, you need to get somebody that knows the material. But anyway, so I thought the movie was pretty interesting. It had some funny moments in it. There was some humor. I don't remember the guy's name. Let me see if I... Oh, goodness. Kevin Corrigan. Kevin is played by actor Robert Duncan McNeil. So, Robert Duncan McNeil, he's been in several movies, and he played he played Kevin, her boyfriend, Courtney Cox's boyfriend in the movie. He was a musician, and he found the little key that they used to travel through time, or cosmic key is what they called it. And that was a cool, just aspect of the movie, having that key, because you had to open the portal to another place using the tones off of that key. So he found a keyboard that he could hook up to it, and he could remember the music and figured out how to get him back to Eternia. Oh, and plus it had Lubick, which was dude from Back to the Future, the bald-headed cop. And so that he was fun to have in there. Was Lubick in Back to the Future, or was that Master of the Universe? I don't remember. But anyway, that was pretty cool. So anyway, that is this episode, Masters of the Universe. One of my favorite toy lines. I always like to, look at those toys as they come out. They just come out not too long ago, and they were back in shelves in Walmart. And I really enjoyed just kind of looking through them. Man, I wanted to buy them so much, but my God, they're $14 a piece. But anyway, well, until next time, guys, don't forget to take out your sword and hold your magic sword aloft and say these words: I'll watch Masters of the Universe on YouTube. I don't know. Just watch listen to my podcast next time, okay? That's all I ask. Anyway, hey, thank you so much for listening, being a part of the Spontaneous Remarks listeners, and thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, catch you on the flip-flop.